VocalEye Almost Live Zoom. Rewriting the Narrative. Rhymes, Resistance, and Realness. Hosted by Amy Amantea. With special guests, Valentina and Philip Mix.
A big heartfelt welcome to you all to this VocalEye Almost Live event. My name is Amy Amantea. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Associate Director here at VocalEye. I'm your host for these almost live events, and I'm a member of the blind community and a proud member of this community to gather with you all on my Wednesday nights, on your Wednesday nights, share our stories, have accessible art in the space, and just like have a good time on a Wednesday night. What else is there to do on a Wednesday night but gather with community? So big thank you to y'all for spending time and energy and capacity in the space. And thanks for all of the lovely testimonial letters and the support that comes in, the donations that you all share. We're very grateful for all of that. And we are actively writing grants to try and bring in some more funding to keep programming like this up and going. So thank you for all of those things. We actively read them, we take time to read them, we respond to them. And so I don't want anybody to think that that time is wasted on your end. If you're joining us on our YouTube channel, you can certainly support us in lots of ways as well. You can like and subscribe, you can share, you can sign up for our newsletter. There are lots of ways in which you can support VocalEye. We are also broadcasting to you from the traditional and unceded or stolen lands of the Coast Salish peoples, in particular the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. As I was thinking about what we were sharing this evening in terms of poetry content, I wanted to understand a little bit more about Indigenous folks and perhaps how poetry was created and utilized in sort of their traditional histories, and maybe how it compared or contrasted with what happens today with modern poetry and its relationship with indigeneity. So I did a little research, as I always do, and I want to share with you all a little bit about what I learned. So here we go. So the difference between traditional Indigenous poetry and modern day Indigenous poetry is that in many ways, traditional poetry is shaped by the shift, modern day poetry is shaped by the shift from oral tradition to written expression. A lot of the poetry is about the impact of colonization and the evolution of voice and resistance in a modern context. But both forms are rooted in relationship, land, spirit, and story. So there's a little bit of breakdown that I'm hoping will maybe compare the differences and similarities. So in traditional Indigenous poetry, a lot of that is oral and ceremonial. So poetry was primarily spoken, as oral histories are. So sung, chanted, or performed. It was enabled in rituals, storytelling, dreams, and song cycles. It was tied to seasonal cycles, to natural elements, and to ancestral teachings. It was also very much related to language as living relationship. So many Indigenous languages are verb-based, which I did not know, and they emphasize process and connection, not static identity. Poetry is embedded in everyday speech. So naming the land, expressing kinship, honoring animal spirits. Communal and intergenerational aspects of poetry. So poems were not always authored individually, but they were shared, they were inherited, and then they were adapted. So it kind of became a little bit like a living thing that was spoken orally and then changed and grown over time. Oral poetry preserved laws and ethics. It was a sacred function, so poetry and song were considered to be part of medicine and spiritual practice as well. The act of speaking poetry itself was sacred. The words were sacred and they were powerful and they were not decorative. So in modern day Indigenous poetry, which is, there are some similarities and some differences, it's more written and it's more polished. Much is written in English, French, or a blend of those languages with Indigenous languages combined. They use contemporary literary forms like free verse, prose poetry, narrative, and other experimental styles. They often have a lot of political or personal content. They often confront colonial violence, residential schools, talk about language loss and land theft. Modern Indigenous poetry is a space of resistance, reclamation, and truth telling. Individual voice and community roots is strong in modern day Indigenous poetry. Poems are authored but deeply rooted in community, ancestors, and collective memory. So you can see that there's some overlaps and some similarities in traditional poetry and modern day poetry. So some of the things that sort of continue over time are the land-based knowledge. Both traditional and modern poetry reflect a relationship with the land and the environment. So even the written poetry often reads like it's meant to be spoken aloud. Spiritual and relationship aspects of poetry remains deeply tied to spirit, ancestors, and interdependence. I know that that's a lot, but I thought that there was some fascinating stuff in there. And if you have the opportunity to listen to like open mic poetry, things like that, there's some really interesting poetry out there. One of the most interesting poets that I've come across, and we'll maybe get Lindsay to send a link of some stuff if she can find it, is Billy Ray Belcourt. Pretty cool stuff, and Leanne Simpson, pretty cool stuff. So yeah, we'll maybe send out some links so folks can enjoy some of those Indigenous poets. All right, friends, big welcome to this Wednesday, July the 30th, 2025. And tonight we're offering you our Almost Live event number 189. Reclaiming the Narrative is the title of this one. Reclaiming the Narrative. This is about rhymes, resistance, and resilience. Rhymes, resistance, and resilience. This is where the blind folks try and read their own writing, and it doesn't quite work. So I wanted to develop this theme around folks in the disability community, folks with lived experience, disabled artists who are writing poems, who are sharing stories through poetry, sharing lived experience. And so I got a couple of folks in the community that do a couple of cool writing things. So I want to bring in Philip and I want to bring in Valentina because they're a couple of cool folks doing some cool stuff. So why don't we bring in Philip and Valentina and start a little chit chat with these folks.
Okay,
Valentina, hello.
Hello.
I'm here.
Nice
I just
to-
have to put my visual on for you. There you go. Okay.
All right.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Philip. We'll just get your square highlighted here. There we go. We got 3 squares on our screen. Hello, friends. Thanks so much for joining.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Always nice to have friends and community in the space. Maybe we could start with a bit of background because you're new to this space. Valentina, why don't you tell our friends in the community a little bit about yourself? Who's Valentina? What do we need to know going into tonight?
Well, I do have lived experience as a person with disability. That's a tossed salad. Probably the primary ailments that I deal with are traumatic brain injury, complex PTSD, and dissociation. Makes me a pretty unique character when I'm bumbling around without my brain, and people are kind enough in this neighborhood to get me back on track. So those are the things I deal with with that. And I am first generation Canadian, born to immigrants from Italy and Sicily, born in Winnipeg, and that's where I began my journey.
Yeah, yeah. And you do a lot of poetry, but you also do other artistic things too. What are the other artistic things that you do?
I love to write. I wrote a book, don't know where it'll go, but I wrote a book. I started with poetry, so that's funny. When I dug through my old poems, I thought, interesting. And I love to write. I love to paint. I love my service dog. He's a wolf dog. I'm out in nature all the time. I'm creating art from found objects on the beach all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Philip's a dear friend and a mentor. And he started emailing me some amazing poems. And that's how he got me back into it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love community. I love it.
Mhm.
Philip, what do we need to know about you before we dive into
Um,
some poetry tonight?
well, I had never considered myself a poet on any
Mhm.
level. Never even occurred to me that that's what I was doing, to be honest with you. I liked rhyme. My poetry comes from my childhood. Um, in fact, everything that I do comes from this particular love that I had for, I don't know what you'd call it, a combination of word that would go with an illustration or something along those lines. So best known for Winnie the Pooh or some other, famous personality. And most people are maybe not aware, or maybe they are, depending on your age, that these original children's books were illustrated by rather remarkable people who had done even been on war theater and done pictures of dying soldiers, but here they were presenting these wonderful images of little Piglet following around his little favorite Pooh Bear and stuff like that. And um, one thing just kept leading to the next, and I realized that I had that somewhere in my wheelhouse. I had really buried it away for over 40 centuries, 40 eons anyway, until a few years ago. I don't know how it actually, oh, I do know how it happened, but I just had an experience, and a poem blasted out. And then before I knew it, I was just writing sort of nonstop from that point on, and have been since. And I recognized it as suddenly another creative outlet for me to get things off my chest, basically, is what it came down to. As far as my disability, what I realized was that um, I had lived all my life very secretively with a condition called bipolar, and then I multiplied that with dyslexia. And so my condition in the world was interesting for me. I thought it was fascinating, but it did pose a tremendous number of challenges, and still does to this day, because I think sometimes people kind of wish you just shut up. So it just
Uh-huh.
goes on and on and on. There's a kind of a, once my brain starts getting engaged in something, it's not an easy thing to turn it off. And so the poetry has been really a way to, and this is what I encourage everybody, is it's really a way to resolve certain emotions that absolutely probably could have other outlets, but I haven't been able to express them enough in art. I've tried to, but I tend to use the art as a much more, it's just a much longer process, whereas poetry, a day and you've got something in your hands. That's quite nice. So that's what I love about it.
Mhm.
And since then, I started looking at other poets and wondering how they used poetry. And so I tend to analyze it, like you were doing earlier about the indigenous poetry. And I tend to analyze it from, what is this person actually saying, and what is
Yeah.
their what is their viewpoint? Like, how are they approaching life? And does it mingle with mine or merge with mine, or is there really something different here?
Yeah.
And my poetry seeks, rather than answering questions, it seeks always to present a question as an answer as a question.
Mhm.
And I notice that is fundamental to my poetry. It just always ends up on that note, that I'm not trying to solve anything here. I'm trying to simply present something.
Yeah.
And this helped me to redefine who I am as an artist too, because um, I used to believe that artists were there to kind of create an impact in society. I've now come to the conclusion that we're just sort of these wandering creatures who do what we do. And if someone wants to peek at it, they're welcome. And otherwise, it's not. I know there's a whole modern movement towards, getting it out there and doing that kind of thing, but I have never seen art as a means to an end on
Yeah.
any level. Never, never once. So I
That's a good,
realized that I was buying into that a bit,
yeah.
and it was actually driving me absolutely crazy. So there you
Yeah.
go.
I
That's what.
think I think that that's a really good reflection is that as an artist, if you're not doing it for yourself, uh, at its basis,
Mhm,
like you shouldn't. I don't believe that you should be doing art for a paycheck
mhm.
because then you're just catering to somebody else. It's great if you can get a paycheck, but you do it for yourself, right? You're writing for yourself. If you get a paycheck, that's like a fringe benefit. Wow, that's fantastic. Um, but I would never want to be an artist that just does it because I get a paycheck because then you're like beholden to somebody else to always have to do something. You don't get
Yeah.
to be the same creative. Well, let's start. Let's start by hearing some poetry. Valentina, you want to share something?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to comment on, I don't know much about what you said about the indigenous peoples
Yeah.
and their storytelling, but I had studied that in the past about, cultures before written word, and how there was someone always that was the storyteller. So they were given all the stories to memorize, and then they passed it on to someone, and that person took that role, and so the stories of the culture carried on. And in a way, I was born into a very, like, I mean, I may as well have been in Sicily. And my grandmother did that with me. She was the storyteller, and I inherited all that information, and I listened and listened and listened. And when I started writing the stories down, like 40, 50 years later,
Mm,
even my aunt and uncle were saying, "You have a photogenic memory." And I'm like, "I don't know. I just heard them so much." So I'm able to
yeah.
relate well to that. And I'm so proud that I can pass on my grandmother's stories. Um, in regards to poetry, now I was a daughter of immigrants, first generation, the only immigrant as dark haired, weird looking in a very white suburb. I was full of angst. And I went into the library, and this book was the first book that introduced me to poetry. And I was studying Shakespeare and all that. And you have to learn all that formal poetry, which I've forgotten all the names. I think I remember sonnet.
Hmm.
And then this one was the first time. It's by Virginia Satire. Oh, you can't see it.
Can't see it anyways. We're all blind.
Okay. Virginia Satire called Self-Esteem. Satir, self-esteem. Now, this is from the 80s that when I discovered it. And it's, I guess, um, free verse. Like
Yeah.
you just write the way you want, put the word wherever you want. And then there's a little sketch on the other side, kind of like your book, Philip.
Mhm.
And so this really inspired me because I thought, wait, first it's called self-esteem, and it's her trying to figure out who she is, and she's free flowing. So I thought, wow, I'm free to write any way I want, and I'm free to question myself.
Hmm.
And so that I dug through my old poems, which not sure how good they are, but I thought if I'm going to start with this being my inspiration,
Hmm.
and the first line, I won't read it, of course. It's interesting because that's what inspired me. I am me. So capital I am me. And then she goes on throughout the book to, dig around.
Yeah.
So my first attempt is called I am me. But I found quickly I was 15 and I had a lot of trouble using capital I. And I don't know if that was rooted in some sort of spiritual thing or whatever, but I just didn't feel I was a big I. So in my poem, I quickly shrink it down to a little I, and I've used that throughout. And I'll flip forward because the book I wrote last year is titled
Oh, I think Valentina might have frozen.
She froze.
the first
Ah!
one that started this journey of self-discovery.
All right.
I am me. So the first one is I, it's the big I. And then it goes straight to little I. I. I am me, a girl, a woman, lost in my thoughts, afraid of reality. I agree yet doubt. I believe yet distrust. I see yet am blind. I love yet hate love. I, me. I do not belong. My mind does not let me belong. They speak to me not. They hear me not. They understand me not. It is they against me. They make the rules which I cannot follow. They breathe the air in which I suffocate. They inhabit a land in which I am internally lost. I, me. Who am I? Where am I? Trapped. Trapped in a place that I cannot escape from. I must survive. I will join with they. I and they will become we. Yes, we. I, me. I am me, alone, frustrated, eternally lost. Me. Who are they? 1984.
1984.
I
So
got
that was my first question about what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
What is this?
Well done. Well done.
And you said pick two poems. I mean, I decided to fast forward and later I'll share a more present version.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is my first angst-filled scribble. Angst, because I had no one to communicate with. I was alone in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you read it back now? Does it resonate with you? Does it bring back memories for you? Do you think, oh, I'm so happy I'm not that person anymore, or I'm still that person?
Oh, I don't know if I've changed that much.
Yeah.
I feel her pain.
Mm-hmm.
I like the questions that I see the young version of me was asking. Somehow I got sidetracked from this beautiful place I was starting to explore. And somehow I'm coming back to it. So, and the theme is still the same. Like, I am me, I am not I. It's funny, I'm still trying to figure out this identity thing that we're supposed to have. So,
Maybe we never figure that out.
I think it's
Maybe that's
best to
part of a
shed it.
lifelong learning thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Philip, do you have a response to Valentina?
Well, I can follow it up with something that's just more recent, actually. And it's still asking that question about who am I? And I should introduce it by describing the event
I'm just
that
going to
brought
close
it
my
about.
curtains.
That brought it about. And so I was visiting my sister and my brother-in-law, and they were discussing a situation that had happened in their lives that was, I would say, they had been taken advantage of, basically, and it had been a traumatic experience for them. And the fact that they were sharing it with me was remarkable on some level, although they're generally doing things like that. But as I was sitting there, I began to realize that a big question was coming up in my mind, and it revolved around a very thorny issue that I've probably had most of my life. And it has to do with the fact that as an artist, I am ridiculously dependent on the, what would you call it? Like you were saying, it shouldn't be an income, basically, Amy, but if it does become one, you become very much a sort of a parrot that's trying to do something for a certain group of people
Yep.
who want you to keep being the parrot. And so fortunately we had gone for a walk, and my wife and my sister took off at full blow because they're younger than us and I can't keep up to them anyway. So I was waiting for them back, and as I was coming back, I saw a flower, and this is where I thought, Amy, you would appreciate this, because I saw something, and instead of just walking past it, it suddenly triggered a complete poem. So this is the poem, and I think you'll get the gist of it, okay?
Okay.
Okay. It's called The Thistle. Said the thistle to the rose, "Your barbs are better than mine." Said the rose in reply, "I think yours are just fine. You've not elegant taste, so your endowment's sufficient. I'm somewhat more gracious, sensible, efficient." The thistle, unsure 'twas this compliment or slight, thought it through carefully from dusk through the night. In the morning, dew laden, he ventured a query. "Am I too not a wonder?" he said rather teary. "Oh, of course," said the rose, "we all have our place, a plot in the garden with suitable space. You pace the paths, while I grace the center. But your swift wilting absence none would mention, I venture." Once again the sad thistle admired the rose, yet he felt somewhat pauper and looked at his toes. And as his head hung, he heard a bird warble. It lit near his stem, its plume dull but noble. It pecked near the edge where the grass hid its head, and gobbled up grubs until it was fed. Its feather was muted, its coat rather plain, but a hint of plum feature glistened like rain. And the thistle, surprised he had never made note of its plumage before, cleared his stopped throat. "Do you not see the rose?" he asked the bird kindly. "Yes, of course," she replied, "but her barbs are so nasty. Her grounds, too, are groomed and powdered with dust. Whereas here I am suited, this place I can trust." The thistle, content that his purpose was certain, said good night to the rose. Let our tale draw the curtain.
Wow.
So that's sort of what was the answer to my question about how do I work with this elite as an artist, these mentors, these people that are so elite, and have really the power to control whether something of mine even sees a gallery wall.
Yes.
And that is something I have absolutely zero control over. But at the same time, I needed a response, and the thistle was the response that I fed those people that were least assuming, the people that just kind of walk in and get fed, and it's just like they're not asking to be fed, but they are being fed. So that was the gist of the thistle.
We didn't mention, Philip, about your visual art.
Okay.
And so when you talk about a gallery, some people may have been like, well, how do you hang a poem in a gallery? But I guess my question is do you ever take any of your poetry and create a piece of visual art out of that poetry, or vice versa, in terms of looking at a piece of your visual art and have that inspire a piece of poetry from that?
I would say the visual art is more likely to supply the poetry, because I'm first and foremost visual. And so I've never seen a direct conjunction exactly, but usually a similar experience that I'm having in my life is often responded to through poetry and art, and in fact through music as well. So all those three elements, the music I listen to or attempt to play on a piano or something like that, it's all very much a response to my emotion, and it's how I navigate life, basically. So it's a really interesting question, but I've never really thought of it that deeply. Yeah, so yeah.
There's actually quite a few artists that I know that are doing these arts projects that are like, so for example, we get four poets and we get other artists to respond in
Right.
whatever way to that poetry. So somebody might respond with a piece of visual art, somebody might respond using clay works or textiles or music or any of those kinds of things as a response to another artist's piece of work. And these projects are so interesting. And then, of course, you can put those up as an exhibition and walk through them and sort of, hear a poem and touch a sculpture at the same time, and at the same time, and experience what that's like.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's a really interesting contemporary way of doing things. I'm afraid I'm a little bit old-fashioned, so my inspiration comes from the fact that, in fact, even before we went on the air, we had that few moments before, and what I did was I went and Googled my favorite artist and just started blasting through the things. And he's
Yeah.
from 1810, so he's not someone that you're going to be having a conversation with overnight. But I always feel that I'm actually conversing with these people when I literally look at their stuff, and I I have poems that reflect on that whole process of me being drawn to their work because their work is there to give a certain assurance, but also to give a certain recognition that the study is never done. It's
Yeah.
never finished. You are never finished a piece of art. And these people that I admire are the people who practically stepped into the grave while they were still holding a piece of charcoal. So that's the kind of people that I admire, and they are, to me, phenomenal artists that should never be forgotten and probably will not be, but they have been the most instrumental teachers for me in my entire life. It's always been that way. These people who exist in faraway dimensions of different time. Yeah.
You want to just like shout out a few names? Doesn't have to be exhaustive.
Well, there's the gentleman I was just looking at tonight. His name is Adolf Menzel,
Mhm.
and he was born in 1810. And if you know anything about him, you talk about disabilities. This man was 4 foot high, 4'10" or 4'2" or something like that. Had a limp and never married. Was kind of a bit of a grump, but he could he would walk around with a sketch pad, and he said there wasn't a day that he didn't put a line on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And this man could, if he saw you, Amy, in the park feeding a dog, he could do 5 drawings of you in a matter of an hour. And each
Yeah.
one of them would be just absolutely incredible. And so I learned from him the responsibility, perhaps, or not the responsibility, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here, Valentina. What word am I looking for?
Commitment?
What?
Commitment, like to
Okay, yeah,
continue
commitment. Okay,
like,
thank you. Yeah, I
yeah.
start to miss words here.
Well,
The commitment that is required
The
to really
discipline.
to
Yeah.
really learn a skill. I mean, the
Yeah.
commitment has to be so remarkable to really, really, really learn a skill. And even then, you never feel that you've learned it, to be honest with you. So
No.
yeah, yeah. So that's
Again,
me. That's
that's
me.
the question about like, is the art ever finished? Do you ever learn it all? Do you, right? Like,
No, never,
that's
never.
the discipline of it. Like, I don't
Yeah,
ever want to learn it all. I want to keep refining as an artist and
yeah,
building and growing and connecting and learning from others, because that's part of the joy for me of being the artist, is that I
yeah.
get to immerse myself with other artists and learn and grow.
Right.
And as I listen to the poetry that you all are offering, I'm thinking about like, you know, what would it be like as a blind person to listen to recordings of the poetry and respond by making something tactile,
Yeah,
right? Like
neat.
if I were
I
to,
like that idea.
right? If you were to record it and I just listened to it on the loop, um, or if we did something as a community with this, like, those are the kinds of things that feel really evocative to me. And so it's like, oh, another grant I have to write to get some money for stuff.
You know,
But
Well, you're full of brilliant ideas, that's for sure. That's really
I
neat.
used to get together with another friend who was an artist and an astrologer, and he had a lump of clay. And
mhm,
he would tell stories. He would just create stories. And while he was telling the stories, we would create
mhm.
the beings
Yep.
in the story. It was really fun. And that started me off on playing with sculpture for a while.
Yep.
It
There's
was
actually a low vision artist that I think was on our first episode of Almost Live, way back at the beginning. So number one of 189, who did an art piece during COVID where he told a story and drew the audience on his iPad at the same time as
wow.
telling the story, which was pretty cool. Valentina, what are you going to share?
Okay,
Oh,
now
yeah.
I go into that big binder and I think there might be another day when I tackle something on the area of love. There's like all that whiny, oh my God, love stuff from a young girl, young woman growing older, and there's other things. But seeing that we don't have that much time to share,
Oh, we got time. We got
I
time.
wanted to fast forward to something. I shared these with Philip, and I'm now in the present. I'm 58, and through talking to some male friends in our age group and myself, I came up with two poems, one for a male person who's accepting aging, and one for me, basically, the female accepting aging. So I'd like to kind of read at least the
Do them
female
both.
version.
Do them both.
Okay. So should I start with the male version or the female?
It's the artist's choice, my friend.
Okay, because I started with I am me and how full of angst I was and they and all that, wah, wah, wah. So this is me now going, whoa, here I am after all that. It's called Bang for Your Buck. I used to have curves that caused men to swoon. I used to skinny dip under a full moon. I used to rock and roll from midnight till noon. I used to perfectly play plenty a piano tune. I used to outswig any cool dude. I used to be gnarly, nasty, and rude. I used to always be in a lovemaking mood. I used to spoil my man with sensual food. I used to excel at all I tried. I used to believe I was queen of my tribe. I used to love hot like meteorite. I used to explode like dynamite. I used to be still enough to hear a butterfly's flutter. I used to be soft like melted butter. Oh gosh, golly, I'm bad and good luck. Most certainly, I'm a bang for your buck.
I love the cheekiness of it. So, what's the male perspective?
I think, and Philip laughed too. I think the male version is much funnier actually. It's called As Is. I used to be this and I used to have that, and I used to own this and I used to drive that. I used to fine dine and have aged wine. I used to believe I had limitless time. I used to be stronger and taller too. I used to own a mansion with quite a view. I used to entertain a lady or a few. I used to wear jeans size 32. I used to sleep I used to sleep soundly on any old bed. I used to have a mop of golden hair on my head. Oh gosh, golly, time's gone by in a whiz. Here I am now, cantankerous with wispy gray frizz. You'll just have to accept me as is.
Sound like you're talking about me there.
Oh gosh.
I think we're all saying that. I used to,
Yeah.
When you write poetry, Valentina, do you prefer, like, do you have a genre that you like? Um, these are like written from the first person, even from the male perspective, is written from the first person. But there's like humor in these. Do you prefer humor speckled in, or do you like doing like deep dive,
Um, I
or
remember back in high school or university, I was told my funny poems, my sarcastic ones, were my best, and to stop trying to write love poems.
uh,
Uh, and I've been doing some really good poetry about Wolfie when I'm out in the morning and I just see the world through a wolf dog's eyes. It's like, whoa, it's so sensual. It's
hmm,
so I don't know what I follow. I follow my mood and whatever the pen writes, and then I edit it a bit. Um, I find I'm better at just doing it free flow.
yeah,
Always.
yeah,
I failed at all those formal English classes, but it got A pluses in creative writing, and
yeah.
so
Well, maybe you can find some Wolfie poems while Philip
yeah,
does something on his
I've
end.
got a couple.
Okay. Got a lot of dog lovers in this space, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So I guess the nature of this broadcast goes to the fact that when Valentina says something, it immediately triggers a poem that I wrote, and it has a very similar thematic contrast. It's definitely speaking about aging. I'll give you the context of this though before I start it. And I went this summer to see a fellow that we used to live together when we were 20. So this is talking about someone who's been in my life for a long time.
Hmm.
And we went out and we did this monstrous hike, both thinking that we were still 20. And we came back, we were basically hobbled. We couldn't hardly walk. And we were enjoying a meal and everything like that. And just as we were doing it, we got back to the campsite. And this incredibly glorious moon rose up above a mountain. And I don't know if I talk about the moon. Yes, I do. I talk about the moon in the poem. So, although I don't describe the moon, but the moon became the reason for the conversation that I had with this poem. So the poem is a conversation that this gentleman is having with the moon. Okay, so that's what we're going for. And I didn't quite know what to call it initially, so I named it Traveler, because I thought that's sort of where I've been. That's what I am. Traveler. A man packs a duffel and enters the night of time, his pace and pulse a shuffle. He recites a curious rhyme. I chose not where I came from, I choose not where I go, and thus to my parting, this too I shall not know. And the verse, despite its sadness, rang reassuring knell. Though not a chime of gladness, its patter sought to quell questions better left to fate, better left to other realms, queries such as why men hate, or why life overwhelms. And as he bumbled into dusk, his legs and spirit hobbled, he paused to watch the moon's bright luster, until his thoughts were cobbled. I am neither fool, nor am I wise. As he spoke, he twirled, not am I wise, he addressed the shining orb. But is truth not found in evening skies, in lakes and running fjord? As he spoke, he twirled a twig between his thumb and finger. What is small? What is big? This worry seemed to linger. But this question, too, he felt was wrong, both hubris and conceit, until a lark in evening song gave his thoughts retreat. The notes so bright gave him pause, he longed its perfect trill, and worries, both their name and cause, vanished in the still.
Love it. That's what going out with nature in nature does for me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, that was describing both of us, because we didn't actually say a word. We just sat there and watched the moon, and we didn't speak to each other for the whole time that we were sitting there looking at it. And it must have been 45 minutes that we just sat watching this thing rise up over the mountains, and
Wow.
neither of us felt inclined to speak, partly probably because we couldn't after all that hiking, but also it just seemed like a moment that was just that one time. And I recognized it, I think he did too, that between the two of us, we would never have such a moment again. And
Yep.
that was really what it came down to. And I'm always asking what's big and what's small, and, interested in astronomy and this and that and the other. And those things always plague me, but I realize that those questions are often what I call hubris. They're just the kind of questions we like to ask to avoid the real questions in life, which are, how are we going to treat one another? Which to me is a much better question than the other one. So yeah.
But I mean, the questions may be better, but they're also more complicated to, with air quotes, solve.
Oh, very much
Right?
so. Yeah.
And
I've
so,
tried to write one about that. I'm not sure about the poetry as it is yet. So
yeah, yeah.
I could read it, but I haven't been sure about the way it comes across. But
It's easier. It's easier to talk about the moon than it is to talk about world peace and famine and war and try and tackle like the heart of those things and how we make systemic change.
well, okay. Can I follow up with one more then?
Sure,
Because
absolutely.
this one will exactly do exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And I don't like this poem because it's really written because this is how I think. And therefore, when I read it, I go, can you not get your act together, mister? So, but I recognize that this poem really, really summarizes how I see. So, and it does respond to that whole problem of what's out there in the world and what's going on and all that stuff. and it's called What the Camera Won't See. It was also written very recently, and it's after I had gone on this wonderful hike and we'd seen all these wonderful things. And then when I came back, my mind immediately went to a rather unfortunate accounting of what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So this is written actually for the children of Gaza. So, and this, to summarize, is the problem in me. I look where neither I nor camera can see. I edit each memory, indeed, same as you, but keep dark clouds, mountains, not smiles neath sky blue. And albums of children at play remind me we've invented our own worlds, our own way. But why should I care that beyond this perimeter, children are dying in war theater? This stage without edit, without purpose, without place, remembers no faces, leaves barely a trace. Simply cairns of violence, folded mountains of death. What the camera won't see fills a book's, strangles breath. So summarize what you will, the brilliance of day. I still feel the shadows. You ask why, I can't say.
Wow.
So that's what happens when you overthink things a lot. Yeah.
I can't believe that your brain says that you don't like that.
What I find disturbing about it is that I have the other side of me that wants to write children's books and wants to do all these other things, but
Yeah.
there is a part of me that wants to be a voice that says, this is what's happening to older people. This is what's happening in here. And so I've done a lot of paintings, and right now I'm doing a whole series on relationship and another series on aged and homes in my painting. And these are not things that are going to be popular for walls, I can promise you that, because they are really rather disturbing imagery. And they, if you come up to them, and if I can make you cry, then I've done exactly what I want to do. But it doesn't mean that I'm pleased to have to do that. It's sort of almost as if I wish that I could be back to Mr. Dr. Seuss, who was just writing something fun, although he felt an awful lot of responsibility for the world too. And I think that's an onus that sometimes we have. So, yeah.
We may have to do a described gallery tour of some of your work, Philip, when you've done these series.
Okay.
We do a lot of described gallery tours here.
Okay.
So that's another conversation to talk about for another time.
Another time.
Valentina, what did you find with Wolfie in mind?
I have 3 about Wolfie. One's kind of a paragraph, and but these 2 are shorter.
That's great. Sure.
Okay, I'm going to start with Midnight Mist. I submit these to the James Bay Beacon. People really like the ones about Wolfie. Slipping into the evening shadows, fuzzy moist mist tickles bare skin. A soft evening hazy glow envelops vintage streetlights, flat ocean glistening with Christmas-colored shapes dotting the distance. Wolfie's tall form leans against weather fencing, gallantly gazing out and beyond. Serenity blankets him and me, arching up at a galaxy sparkling of infinity. Worries dissolve into the divine. This is real. This is now. This is the breath of life. I feel like he's showing me.
Mm-hmm.
While I'm nattering and worrying and he just takes me straight to serenity.
Yeah.
Always. Serenity can be there if you just shut up and focus on the present. So that's what he's teaching me. And can I read one more?
Yeah, read them both. Yeah.
Okay, well, this one, because Wolfie's now 7.5 and we got some stuff coming up and he's got to go to the vet and I'm starting to ache and he's done a lot of service dog duty for me. So I took him out to Island View Beach And he kind of stood there, you know, it's kind of flat and it goes out far, and it almost seems like he was looking to go across to the hill over there, away. So I called this the longing. Wolf dog filled with wonder. Serenity surrounds him. Stoically, he gazes beyond the tree-dotted horizon. Wispy waves whistle. Sky angels soar. Chirps, squawks, whirls through sensual summer breeze. Loyalty is his tether. Longing, his liberty. To rise up, walk to the ocean's edge, cast me a backward glance of gratitude, and cross over the boundary of servitude into freedom. I felt he just wanted to keep on going.
Yeah.
Like, thanks.
Who doesn't?
I'd rather be free.
Who doesn't?
And you've got one more Wolfie to share?
Well, it's called I Am Canadian and Proud of It.
Great.
So it's my only version. I don't get involved in this stuff because I don't study politics enough, but Wolfie led me right up to the Canadian flag, and I felt I needed to respond with all these things going on. Wolfie and I celebrate 3 joyful years. It's a paragraph. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wolfie and I celebrate 3 joyful years living in vibrant James Bay, Victoria. As we've been buzzing along our lush nature trails, waving hellos, singing along with our local guitarist, or joining in on the glee of children sharing their beach trophies, we celebrate that we've made so many eclectic friends. But time is a-ticking, and Wolfie is now over 7, and he's taking the lead on how he wants his mature wolf dog persona to spend his time. He's transformed from jovial and electric to serene and regal. When the sky is deep blue, the horizon twinkling and shimmering, he sits, stoically gazing out into infinity, howling under a full moon as if to show me, this is heaven. I bend down, wrap my arms around him, snuggle into his mane, gaze into his wise amber eyes, and howl alongside him, breathing in the ocean's infinite roar. Eagles soar above, owls hide in thick branches. He leads me further down our coastline, and my ears tweak to squawking seagulls and cawing crows. With Wolfie still in the lead, we weave through wild grasslands, passing silent hellos to daring deer and bounding bunnies. Wolfie, you are heaven, I say to him as I shut out the natterings of a nervous mind and tune into his wolfscape. Suddenly I look up, and we are standing directly under the Canadian flag in Beacon Hill Park, waving wildly in the wind. From any angle I turn, I marvel at Divine's creation, Mother Earth. When I was a young daughter of immigrant parents, I celebrated Canada Day, helping my uncle distribute Canadian buttons and flags at the Italian Cultural Center in Winnipeg. 8 years old, I sported a t-shirt with a buffalo on it that said, I am Canadian and proud of it. I was indeed proud to be in Canada, knowing all my past generations' suffering to give me this opportunity to live free and abundant in a country rich in diversity. They sacrificed for me to have more. Unfortunately, there is always someone or some group that believes they are better and others are not. So life was not easy for some of us in between cultures children. This projected anger, hatred, racism or cruelty dolled out to the undesirables, which culturally changes according to our times, is utterly cruel. It alters vulnerable people's life choices and blocks growth. There is no us and them. We are all human beings. If we are to survive an unknown future, we will succeed better as one. Value merit over creed, honor differences, and unite these differences with compassion, empathy, support, mutual respect. I stand firm on this terrain and proud of my Canadian identity, despite those who have judged or limited me in the past. And I showed all that hatred and racism must end, and what will be born from rejecting this darkness in all forms is a stronger unity across the provinces and amongst all our Canadian tribes. I am Canadian and proud of it. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah. That resonates. Resonates. Yep. Thanks for sharing that, Valentina.
Thank you.
Does that spark a response for you, Philip?
Well, I have two poems and I'm trying to decide which one would be better.
This is like a poetry war.
Yeah, it
I love
is.
it. It's like a poetry
Well,
slam.
I have two. One
Great.
that I think has my thematic in it, but the other one, I want to read this one because it Valentina has all this humor going on in her poems, and I think I have a subliminal sense of humor in this poem, and I will read it because of where it came from. And when she's talking about everyone being the same and being treated equally, this particular poem is actually called Parity, which Parity, which means being treated equally.
Mm-hmm.
So it's done that way. And I'll start off. I imagined a group of people, a committee, who was in charge of deciding what kind of epitaph anybody could have on a bench or on a wall or anything like that. And so I was imagining these two very grouchy people up in heaven who were trying to decide what should be on a park bench. So
Mm-hmm.
this is this poem. Okay, so it's got a bit of a humor to it, but I still think it's actually resolves a very interesting problem. Parody. There's a faction in heaven, idle and still, whom abide both cautious and wary. They, the bench plaque pledgers, sit side by side, a society grown somewhat dreary. They, having grown to such number, in fact, tallying hundreds each day, so many that now they've appointed pledger ledgers who count not just those who will stay, but those whose benches are broken, yes, those the ones whose benches gave way. Now, the Society BPP holds meetings bi-weekly to discuss both the merits and means of how plaques are affixed. Speaking meekly and assuredly, they say, plaques should be made of metal and tacked to iron, woods, or bricks. Yet what these plaques convey remains priority, be they couplets, verse, or memes. It's important to give attention to such matters so grave. So they say. Now Joyce, presiding prefect, is currently affronted by a verse inclined citing posh gems, whereas Bruce, quite deceased, takes great umbrage often with plaques describing fowls such as Karen and wrens. Though neither agree, they're in heaven, you see, so opinions are discouraged, indeed rather profoundly. So they hold their tongues fast, each praying that long last another clan of souls will emerge for the task. A group inclined to settle the dispute once for all, who will limit fonts and dictate style. They'll pronounce a decree and will say as they smile, metaphor may comprise 10%, never more. And moreover than that, let there be no more spat, apply same to weak simile. Which should tally up well, for how long none can tell, but indeed this should settle the score. So no more shall men with double chin, stubbled, scarred, and proud, be compared to wisdom's silos. This shall no longer be allowed. No more too shall flaxen maidens, fair in flesh and form, be described as virtuous quills. This too is disavowed. Hereby be it on earth as it be in heaven, the plaques and pledgling council mandate clarity, inscribed upon plaque and upon benches intact, regards mankind assured parity.
Hmm.
Good.
It's kind of a fun little poem that I wrote
Yeah.
because I had been sitting on this plaque and looking at all these plaques on these benches, and then I thought, I remember going to Europe and you'd read all these great, citations about what these people had done, and I was thinking, well, we don't know who they are. We don't remember who they are. So this little tiny little plaque that's there, what if there was a society that actually dictated what could go on those plaques? So I thought it was kind of a fun idea. So I did it.
You don't even know if it's true.
Pardon?
You don't even know if it's true what's on the
No,
plaque.
you
Like,
don't know if
who
there is
wrote it?
actually a society in heaven that's deciding which plaque should be put on what.
They sound a little bored, like they got their
Well, they
donuts,
are.
their
They are. They don't know what
coffee,
else
and
to do.
here we
They have,
go. Strict rules over what can
of
be put on
course.
there. That's not the heaven I want to go to. I'm
Well,
going
I
home
know.
heaven.
Nobody's thinking that way, but
I'm
I
gonna
just
run
saw this
free in the
board.
fields.
Yeah,
Well,
they were dreary enough, and they were just waiting for someone to come along and get the whole thing fixed up right, so that everybody would be equal, because it was starting to get tiring for them. So
in
Yeah.
in reality, what I know of plaques is that if you want one, all you got to do is buy one. And so if you buy one, you get to dictate what's on it,
I know.
right? And so I could buy one and say that I was the greatest person on earth and I did all these great things, and it could be a complete lie.
True.
Right? And somebody 200 years from now could be sitting on a bench that says I'm a great person and I did all these great things. That never happened.
Oh,
Um,
well,
you
we
can
don't know
manifest
though,
your
do
own
we? We
legacy.
don't know though, do we?
No, we don't. That's why you need a checks and balance in heaven.
There you go.
That's a check
I
and
got a
balance.
little joke to add if we're getting into some
Yeah.
humor here. Where I was living, I know Philip knows it was a very unpleasant place for me. I dreaded being there with my son. It's not in BC, and I just detested it. And twice a year, they came around for large item pickup day. You put out the junk you want to get rid of, and yay, it's gone.
Hmm.
So for almost 18 years, I said to my son, because I resented the neighborhood so much, I said, hey, when I die, I want you to roll me up in a carpet, throw me out on large item pickup day, and make the county deal with it.
Oh gosh, Valentina.
I say it as a joke. I want them to pay for my. It's maybe a little dark,
Mm.
Oh, it's
but
not dark. I mean, well, it's
like
dark, but
great.
it's yeah. I get you. I get you. Uh,
Large item pickup day.
I think
Mm.
we got time for one more from each of you. You got a
Okay.
final one you want to share?
Uh, are you ready, Philip?
Well, yeah, I'm going to share this little one because we were talking about childhood and all that stuff. And this is actually one of my favorite poems that I ever wrote. And I think it's because it has this incredibly humorous aspect in it. For me, I find it very humorous. And I don't know if you've had friends like this, but you probably have. If you can remember someone from your grade school that you used to chum around with, and you thought they were great, Amy, so we all think you're great, but they were very self-possessed with their own greatness. I don't know if you've
Mm-hmm.
met people like that or know people like that, but they were very self-possessed with how brilliant they absolutely were. And so you admired them, but at the same time, you felt them rather, there was something missing, some sort of empathy or something that was missing in their head. So this is a poem about one of those kind of people that I had a very dear friendship with when I was young. And I don't know why he came to mind one day. I just decided I'm going to write this guy a poem. So it's called Raymond, and it's very much in a Dr. Seuss type of mood. So I'll read it to you. And this one is in my little book that I wrote. So Raymond. Isn't it strange, said Raymond with air, how some fixate on what they wear, while others mull their distant fate, most seek approval in their gait. The way they strut to hold attention. Take Tom, for instance, for just one mention. Ray looked at me with dour grin. I saw the bait and felt chagrin. Look, Ray, I said, your tatty tie is English pomp and very dry. It's all a prop, as is my cap. Ray cringed and sighed and met my slap. Oh, you might boast your humble attire, said Raymond, gloating large with ire, but my IQ is quite unmatched, yours half-baked and barely hatched. You have a point, I said to Ray. You indeed will have your day when you own a bank or solve the riddle of why we smoke and drink and piddle. Your name on billboards, your flight well charted, your belch renowned, your thin hair parted. We'll say with lassitude, Ray, you know, knew humans well, but his attitude can go to hell. Ray felt the poke, but deflected well. His skin was thick, practically a shell. Yet next day he wore an open collar. his flesh flabby white, an ivory pallor. So I said, "Dear Ray, ties suit you better. On you they sing, on me they fetter. Please become your former style." And Ray returned a beaming smile. "Thank you, my friend," he said with glue. I do think ties and I agree. What Ray became I never sought, until this moment gave no thought. Voted yearbook snob and stuck-up bluster, his mind was sharp, though lacked some luster. His ties, however, plague me still. So with cap in hand, I tip my quill. To Ray, my childhood friend, I with this ink salute him who gave me pause to think. To Ray, who had uncommon chill, I bid him well and no ill will. So that's just a fun one that I wrote, but it's
That was good.
it was really fun to write it. I had a really good time writing that poem. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I love, Philip, how your rhymes are the you use words that aren't used every day, like fetter. When was the
Yeah.
last time I heard the word fetter? Um, and that is so interesting to me. It's actually one of the things we talk about in description all the time,
Mm,
is using words that say more than just the word, right? It's like, how do we as describers or as poets or as artists use like take the most amount of space with the smallest amount of
yeah,
word, right? The
yeah.
smallest amount of real estate in words, and you just have this really good um a sense of language and vocabulary that you can find these words that I like. They just don't come to my fingertips. I'd have to have a thesaurus and Google like what rhymes with what. And so bravo, because you just make it sound like it rolls off your fingertips.
He's also someone that could take you into different worlds. Philip
Yeah, the world
in
building's
in a
good. The narratives
dimension
are good.
that's so timeless and lovely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the narratives are
it's
great.
it's it's really interesting to to see how you've lived that way, Philip, with your language, with your art, with your words, with the way you wear your hat. It's just really neat.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think I told you before that I was under the impression that I couldn't write because, and I have a sister who's even a published writer. So my command of the English language, because of being dyslexic, has always been rather peculiar as far as I can see. Because one of the reasons these words come to me is because I'm fetching around for a word and I find a word that's sort of the word that I'm looking for, but not quite the word I'm looking for. And then I decide,
Hmm.
why didn't I just use this word that actually kind of works? So that's generally, it's sort of almost an interesting talk about having a disability that actually helps you create something. That's a kind of a nice note to end on, and that's some sense of being. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it is true that there are some folks that look at their disability a little bit like a superpower. Like they
Hmm.
harness it and they use it in a way that benefits them in some kind of
Yeah.
creative way. That's not been my experience with dyslexia. I cannot spell the word the. So if you ever get an email from me and the spelled TEH, that's how I spell the, even though I know it's not spelled that way.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's a real thing for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
mine showed up after my brain injury
yeah.
to dyslexia.
Mine
Yeah.
got worse after I lost my sight. And
Mhm.
I think part of that is because I stopped reading print. And when you
Mm-hmm.
stop reading print, your spelling gets really messed up because you're not looking at words all the time.
Yeah.
So for me, because I was a visual learner, when you're hearing words, I don't know what order the letters go in. So that made it worse for dyslexia. When you're seeing the words, at least,
Yeah.
you can sound them out, you can fake it till you make it, but I'm not seeing the words anymore. So that's a little bit harder.
Yeah. I do have a poem called Dyslexia, but I don't think it's maybe we don't have to read it for now. But it's
Well,
another
maybe we,
time.
oh, well, maybe we can.
Okay. I don't know if there's time enough, but we'll let
No, I mean,
know
it's not
sometime.
that there's not time. It's not, we're not hitting a broadcast deadline or anything.
Okay.
So,
Well, I've never read it to anybody, and it's never
Oh,
been.
go for it.
Oh,
okay, well, let's
okay.
go for it.
And it's very different than all my other poems. So it's I don't even know.
Dyslexic.
It's because it's a dyslexic poem. It came out of searching for words, and as you get older, you start searching for words all over the place. So here's the word. I call this poem Dyslexia. Parasite politic, erudite heretic, pap smear, papal fear, naloxone, toxin, Panadol, paroxysm, infidel, intertel, telepath, sociopath, register, barrister, mayor, lawyer, paucity, travesty, proxy, patsy, crinoline, paraffin, waxy, wonky, wicked, honky, saxophone, megaphone, emasculate, evaluate, feminine, filament, intimate, irritant, volatile, violate, vagabond, venerate, wither, withstand, wallow, command, mistress, master, monocle, plaster, eons, peons, pansy, dandy, cloying, coy, keepsake, toy.
Oh, that's your best. That's your best. I love that one.
Yeah, because it's just all words that sort of could mean the same thing, but don't mean anything like the same
When I'm
thing.
sitting in the drop-in group at the Brain Injury Society, it sometimes takes all of us in the table to put one sentence. It does sound like the whoop, whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
whoop, but we're laughing. We're having so much fun. We know we're there. Yeah, and that's wonderful. Love it.
And
Love it.
again, there's some really lovely words in there that I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some words in there that I may be hearing for the first time. But there you go. That's great. But my dyslexia shows up everywhere, but often shows up in the names of human beings.
Right.
So like Carolines and Carolines, I just can't. Like I really have to interact with somebody for a long time to remember whether you're a Caroline or a Carolyn. Like if you're just sort of somebody that I bump into, and now people are going to be like, "Hey, wait, I'm a Caroline." Are you thinking about that every time? But it takes a long time for certain names for me to be able to remember which one of those names is which, because they're just too similar for me. And sometimes it's like, names of cities and stuff too, and I'm like, oh, which city is that? I don't know. Like I still to this day, people are gonna laugh. Please laugh. You can laugh. Kelowna and Kamloops. For whatever reason,
I do it all the time too.
They're nearby.
I do it all the time too.
They're just nearby.
and we got people we're in the Zoom room. One lives in Kelowna, one lives in Kamloops, and I'm always mixing them up because I just can't.
They should just put those two cities together and forget about them.
No offense, Kelowna.
Kelowna loops.
Yeah. Just make one word that means both.
Spread it out.
Kelowna,
Kelowna loops.
Yeah.
Kamloops. Well, come
Well,
on.
I keep losing more and more, so I don't even know. Sometimes I don't know what street I'm going down. So it's getting more and more funny, and that's why I think I've come up with "I am not I" because I can't attach to anything I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Have you got a final poem to offer us?
I'm not sure if I have a funny one.
It doesn't have to be funny, but just something to leave us with.
I
anything
do
you like.
have a very short one that I wrote thinking about my adult son when I realized, oh my God, he's grown up.
I have an adult son. Yeah.
Well, he's an adult son, and that's how it happens. Suddenly they're grown up and they never need to live with you anymore. And I'm like, wait, now I can do it right. So one of his middle names is Bliss. So when I moved here and I just thought of, love and loving my son and us being physically apart. But I was sitting there looking at the blue sky and the moon and all that, and I came up with this. It's called Bliss. I am here, you are there, one sky, everywhere. A thought breaks. Are you awake? Did that sunbeam touch your landscape? In my heart, you're with me still. Loving you is the only time to fill.
Aw.
Thanks.
That's sweet, Valentina.
Yeah.
Have you shared that with him?
Yeah, he's not so gushy.
Not so gushy. He doesn't appreciate the.
Yeah,
thanks, Mom.
Stuff. Okay.
Stop it, Ma. I'll call you in a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I love him. It can be used for any person you love.
That is true. Yep.
It made me realize you can send and receive love even if the being is not in front of your face. I do believe that.
Yeah. I think at some point too, like maybe I'll need to put some of these smaller poems into like cards and like sell, greeting card kind of things, sentiment cards. And it's because some of these are really great and like you said, could be used for anybody. So I'd
Yeah,
love to get a card that wasn't
I
written
thought of doing
specifically.
that.
Yeah.
Mm,
What a cool little artistic side gig that would be, especially in a place like on the island, right? Lots of
yeah,
stuff on
yeah.
the island. Yeah. This has been fabulous, friends. Let's give a round of applause for our
Thank
artists.
you, Philip, for
It's so
joining.
really lovely.
Thank you for inviting me. I never think of doing this otherwise. So
There
it's
you
amazing.
go. Yeah, really nice to have you both in the space. Um, I would love for any of our guests in the Zoom room, if they have any questions or thoughts or want to share anything with you all, to remind folks that the use the hand function is pretty much how we like to do things. Although if that's not accessible for you, you can just jump on in with a question or a comment or a share. Maybe you're a poet. And if not, we'll just take a couple of minutes and chat with our guests before we officially say goodbye. But I just want to remind folks that they have an opportunity to come on in and share their piece. I know we do have, typically we've got lots of folks in the space who do poetry, and it's always fun. Oh, my screen's bouncing around here. It's always fun when other poets get to share things that they do too. But in the meantime, I'm curious about process. I'm curious about like how long it takes to write a poem and whether it just like pours out of you or whether you have to like sit with it for a while and write and edit and write and edit. Or, for some people, these things come really organically, and for other people, it's like a real heavy process. And Philip, you were saying that you just like you write all the time. So, what's the process like for you?
Um, I I think because I'm an artist, I do the same process as I use for my art. Although as being an artist, because things take so much longer to do, I often tell my brain to please slow down a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's often what I have to do. And then I say, put that thought on hold, but I'll write it out somewhere. And I, for me, the process generally is something has occurred, some event has happened. And whether I recognize it or not, I'm mulling it over in my brain. I often am not even aware how much I am mulling it over, and I just am. And then usually what happens is a little phrase will come to me, just almost the very first sentence of the poem.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very quick, simple catchphrase. It just starts, um, yeah, and it just jumps out at me. And instead of ignoring it, I go and I write it down.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I do. And then I might, if I'm walking or if I'm sitting and drinking my coffee, sometimes then the next line comes. And so I just write that one down. And it's usually I'll get 3 or 4 lines started, like just starting. And then there's a whole moment where the poem simply goes blank on me. It just doesn't know where it's going or why it's going where it's going.
Mm.
It's got a great start. It's sort of like, there it is. It's like the underpinning of a great painting, but we still don't know what colors we want to use. So we're looking at this thing. And then what I do is I just put it away. I literally just walk away and do whatever else I've got to be doing. And then maybe an hour passes or several times, or the evening passes. I've done my other things that I wanted to do with the day, and I'll sit down. And then all of a sudden I read the first verses I wrote. And because when I'm reading what I wrote, it suddenly goes, this, of course, is exactly what follows. And so the next thing follows almost immediately. And then it usually finds itself at least to almost the end of the poetry. And then there's always this really interesting moment because I have to ask myself, I read it over several times and I say, what is the question you're asking here?
Ah.
Because I don't just accept it at face value. I want to know, is there something here that has a deeper essence to it than I'm trying to get at? Because I realize that that's why I'm doing it, because there's a question in my mind. So I want to pose the question. I don't want to pose an answer. I just want to pose the question, because when I pose the question, it responds as if it's an answer to me. And I don't know how else to describe it. It's a rather strange way of thinking about something, but which is why most of my poems respond by saying, okay, we'll close the curtain, or this is it. Like it's just a sudden smack, we're done. It's like a play. And to me, it was always that kind of thing when I was a kid. You go to a play, the curtain would close, and then now you're thinking about this whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand people who don't think about it, because I would just rerun that thing over in my mind 1,000 times. What did that mean? What did that mean? Why was she there? What did that happen there? And I go over and over and over and over. And so these poems come out of the same process that I had when I was a kid and used to go to theater and watch theater. I'd come home and I'd be the kid who was so full of questions. I remember saying, you'd be the kid at the table who people would say, would you stop asking the questions? Like just slow down here, slow down. Let's just, we just say that we enjoyed it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, enjoying it is fine, one thing, but actually figuring out why, why was this written? Who wrote it? And I do that to this day and age. I don't look at a piece of art without researching why it was written, why it was made, who made it, what they made it, what the time zone was, what they were involved in, what was their history, who are they? This is how I think. And so same thing happens in my poetry. It's exactly the same thing. But where they actually come from, like it's a thistle, it's a bird singing a song, it's the moon rising over the thing. There's one right now I'm writing, I haven't finished it yet, but it's about a spider and a grasshopper who meet. And it's a very interesting poem. I just can't quite resolve what's going on between these two. But I've got it almost finished. And I keep asking the question, what is this supposed to resolve? And because I don't know yet, I'm still saying, okay, well, let's figure out the question. And I haven't figured out the question yet. So it'll be interesting to see what it comes out into. I've had this poem in my mind now for more than 3 months. So it's just, but I don't worry about it. I don't think, oh, I've got to finish this poem. No, I never think that way. I just I throw it aside. Sometimes I forget I've even written it, and then I find it smashed between a book that I was reading or something, and I go, oh, I wrote that. I can't remember a moment of it, but I read it again, and then I'm right back to where I was. So that's my process. Bingo.
Cool. Valentina, you want to share a bit about your process, and then I acknowledge we have a couple of hands, so we can.
Okay.
Quite honestly, opposite.
I
my writing, if I'm writing something, I'm going to do the similar process, question and think and put it aside and all that. But my poems seem to come out when I'm, again, walking with Wolfie. So I grab the moment. I just watch the moment and what is it in the moment because my mind's always worried about something. So I let him draw me into stillness. And what is it that's making me feel serenity? That's, what is it about nature that pulls me away from my worrisome mind and my thoughts of today and tomorrow and who I'm mad at or who's mad at me, all that junk.
Yeah.
And so I let him show me. And it's just, I'll do a rough, I mean, mine aren't as long as yours. So I do kind of just a rough version and then I tighten it up. Mine are shorter. So it's a little bit easier. And then I'm learning to play with the thesaurus because I lost a lot of language with the brain injury. It seems there's
I
somewhere in
get
there.
that. I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. One day I said back in the days of yore, and my friend laughed at me, and I'm like, I don't know where that came from. In the days of yore. So
Past life.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate understanding process, because everybody's process is so unique, but you find like these little overlaps and you're like, oh, that's interesting, especially when you're connecting with other artists that identify with some kind of lived experience that is similar to yours in some way, and it's like, oh, like I don't feel so alone or isolated because we're doing something that is in like that feels similar. Adapt, like we've adapted in some way to make it suit our own lived experience, which
I just want to add, I think that since I started writing poetry again, like maybe in the last 2, 3 years, I think that it's really helped me with my emotional stuff.
yeah.
I think it is a really good way to just muck around and maybe purge and close.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some stuff that just bleh, get it out tighten it up, close the book, and it just helps you that way.
Yeah. I remember you saying to me once, Valentina, in one of our conversations um, about hoping or thinking, or if your poems touched one person, or changed the way one person thought, or provided one person with like just a moment of feeling something different about their moment in life, that's kind of what you wanted to do with it, right? Like if
Yeah.
it resonated with somebody,
Yes.
that would be kind of a nice goal. Yeah.
I
I love
think that, I mean, that's what I get when Philip sends me one every now and then on an email. I'm like, whoa, my day was just going to be this. And now I get to
that.
think about this,
Yeah. We all need to get on Philip's poetry group
Yeah,
now.
daily poetry,
Daily poetry from
email
Philip.
list.
Loop, eh?
Yeah,
You've got a job now, Philip.
Oh dear. Okay.
Okay, let's go to some hands here. So our first hand is from Rabar, and then we've got Pamela.
Hello everyone, Rabar speaking. I just wanted to thank you all for everything that you shared, but especially the discussion of dyslexia. See, I even struggled saying the word. You might say I'm also dyslexic. It's a big shock, I know. And then I just was very happy, fulfilling to hear that. And especially with the brain fog and the words, because I'm also a writer, and it just sometimes it doesn't come. Sometimes I spell things the way I spell things, and the venomous word memorizes that typo. And yeah, so I was I felt very much in community. I thank you both for sharing, and that's all I wanted to express. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Rabar.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Pamela, you're up.
Hello, folks. A couple things. I guess I wanted to say thank you so much for sharing your diverse poems today. It's speckled with humor and everything. I really appreciated it. um, you mentioned possibly sharing our own. I am far from a poet, but I did attend a session, an art session for disabled folks to challenge us to write poetry about our or the disability experience. So I could share that if you like.
Yeah, let's take some comments from Emma, and then at the end we'll get you to share it, Pamela, if that's what you want.
Sounds good.
Yeah, awesome.
About the dyslexia thing, is that what you're wanting me to comment about? Yeah. I'm sorry. Amy.
Oh, no, sorry, Philip. Pamela was saying that she has a poem that she'd like to share too.
Oh, I got you. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Sorry.
But we've got a hand from Rita. So
Rita.
let's do Rita. I thought I saw Emma put up a hand, but maybe I.
I'm using my wife's.
Oh, that's you. That's there. Okay, so.
Okay, sorry.
That's
Okay,
okay.
this is Rita.
Rita.
I just wanted to say I absolutely love these things. And Amy, remember we went to this sort of poetry contest that we had at the Cultch a
Yep.
few weeks ago, and this reminds me of that. And I just loved both of you. Thank you very much. That I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed all the things that you read out. So I'm not a poet, so so all I wanted to say was thank you, and I appreciated it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Right.
Really appreciate that. Great. Do we want to have a listen to Pamela's poem before we say goodnight?
Go for it.
All right, Pamela, if you want to share and you're ready to share, let's do that, and then we'll call it a night.
I will be brave, so go easy on me. I guess background first, we were just supposed to declare we're supposed to state what we are not and what we are, essentially.
Yeah. Pamela, sorry, do you want to be spotlit?
Oh,
you have to turn your camera on.
Okay, give me a second here.
We'll get Lindsay to spotlight you just so. Add you to our squares. Awesome. There you are, my friend.
Cool. Okay. I am not one of those who look disabled to verify their disability. I am the wind's whisper in seasons of change. I am the babbling brook, slowly eroding a new path. I am the mirror that catches you off guard. I am not one of those freaks. I am the precious ring that you will never control or possess as you please. I'm the flaming eye haunting the back of your mind. I am a unicorn farting sprinkles and spice on your bland potluck offering of acceptance. I am not one of those burdens to society. I am the earworm tune that you struggle to own makes your body groove. I am the tack on your seat of comfort. I am the intentional raisin in your chocolate chip cookie. I am the sliver you can't find past the log. I am volcanic ash preserving treasure. I am the sap encased potential. I am polished corundum. I am the foghorn. I am the soft pillow. I am human. I have value.
Wow, wow, wow. I want a copy of that. I
Fantastic.
do. For all the people that pick and complain and judge. I like that.
Really nice.
Good,
Mm.
very generous. I appreciate
Just
it.
keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've got how
That's
you
wonderful.
That's
you've got a
reclaiming the narrative, right?
Really,
yeah
really good.
There you
you've got a
go.
way of injecting kind of a humor that is so unexpected that it makes you, even though the subject is extremely difficult, you've
Mhm.
made it really a lot more acceptable as a way of us just communicating to the people who don't quite understand where we're coming from, and that's really important.
Mhm.
I think, yeah. And
Mhm.
that's what I like.
Yeah.
That poem just rings completely in that zone, as far as I can see. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
well
Thank you
done,
so
well
much
done.
for
It's
So,
really good.
so don't,
It's
you know,
really
you can
good.
be like us. We don't call ourselves poets. So just you can continue on the same line. Just
Yeah.
don't call yourself a poet. Just keep doing it.
Just keep writing.
Cool. I like it. Thanks for the
But we're
inspiration.
the
And
non-poet society.
The
The
Non-Poet
non-poet
Society.
society, yes.
You know what? That's a great name for a collective, the Non-Poet Society. I love
yes,
it.
I love that.
Although I will tell you that some folks who've been artists, like, you know, theater artists, way longer than I have, said to me once, because I would say I'm not a writer and I'm not like, not, you know, I'm not really an actor, because you know, I don't have an MFA and I don't have a BFA, and
Mhm.
I would just talk about these kinds of things in my artist bio, and I would say, well, I'm an edutainer, right? I educate and I entertain at the same time. I'm an edutainer. And that, you know, somebody once said to me in writing my artist bio that I really need to call myself a multidisciplinary artist. And I said, why? I like edutainment. And they're like, but you're a multidisciplinary artist. And I was like, but doesn't that have to have some kind of education thing behind it, right? Like,
No,
how do you?
no.
And I was told that I devalue what I do when I don't just say,
Mhm.
you know what, I am a writer, even though I don't identify as a writer, but I've written things that have been successful. So call yourself a writer. So, like, as much as I love this non-poet society thing, maybe we have to start calling ourselves poets, because we're writing stuff and it's successful and people like it. And
Yeah.
why aren't we identifying that way? Like, who's writing the certificate that says we're not? Right?
Well, we should
I
never
have a
base it on
response to you, Amy.
education.
Yeah.
I have a response to you, and I think you can all identify with this. And I know it because if you've had kids, then you know exactly what you're going through. Because as you're growing up as a kid, there's this little sort of inverse pressure to become what somebody has decided that maybe you would be good at.
Yeah.
And if you show any kind of proclivity to be able to do something, it's suddenly assumed that, oh, he's going to be a musician, or he's going to be this, or he's going to be that. And my own children are just like too talented in too many places. So this multidisciplinarian thing really fits into that, because I look at them and I say they can do almost bloody anything. So it's a bit of a problem, because there's me. I look at myself and I go, well, I'm sort of stuck in this one little vein because it's the one that I feel most confident in. But when I think about it now, what you're saying is really that when you're a kid, you don't go into your childcare center or to your school and think to yourself, I'm only this, I'm only that,
Mhm.
I'm not this, I'm not that, until you start thinking that way or are being told that's how you are. And I think that unfortunately, we struggle with that for our whole lives. I'm 70 and I'm still struggling with it. So
Yeah.
it really is something that, in a way, it would be better if we didn't have these designations whatsoever. And
Yeah.
in a way that there wasn't such a thing as a poet or an artist or an architect or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I designed the building I'm sitting in right now, but I'd never call myself an architect. But it's a gorgeous building. I mean, if you ever come around here, you go, that guy could have been an architect. You know, that's just how it is, right? So, um, so I think that,
Good point.
yeah, it's a really interesting thing that we say. I'm not suggesting that we should embrace everything, because I think that becomes too much in a way. I think what we do is we embrace the thing that, as it becomes healing, as you're speaking to, Valentina, as these things become a way of communicating, a way of connecting, a way of healing, they just simply are, you know, and that's the best thing for us to remember, if you ask me. And I need that constant reminder, because I start thinking, oh, I'm in this little production factory that I've got to churn out this X number of paintings on, you know, that have this number of trees in them, or whatever it is. And it starts to become, it actually becomes a huge burden that doesn't need to be there. And so I think, same with Valentina, you just started writing, and it's just wonderful that you just do it. And so same, I'm sorry, who was it? Rita, was it Rita? I just encourage you to do the same thing. Don't ever put don't drop the basket over top of your head. Just leave it open.
I
Whatever
am
it
not
wants to do.
I.
Yeah.
Like, don't attach to the label. Just do
whatever it is.
the things you like to do.
Yeah, just do it.
Do what
Yeah.
sparks joy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or sparks anything, whatever it sparks that
Yeah.
keeps you. And the word I love is curious.
Curious.
Yeah.
If it keeps you curious, do it. If you can have curiosity, you're in a good camp. And
That's a very actor's word.
You're in a camp with thousands of people, because those ones who are curious are, to me, are very fascinating people. The people who are not curious anymore, kind of, they're missing something, and they may have money glowing out of their groins, but they're missing something. So, you know,
There's certainly quite a lot of those.
Yeah.
We've got one more hand from Tammy, and then we're going to wrap. So come on in, Tammy.
Hi there. Sorry I was a bit late today, but I enjoyed hearing your poetry for sure, or whatever we're calling it. I just wanted to say, when I was younger in school, you know, I was really quite intimidated by poetry, because, you know, you go to English class and you're hearing the Shakespeare sonnets, and you're hearing all these poems that rhyme and that seem quite abstract, like it's difficult to know what they really mean. And, you know, so I have to say I didn't like poetry. I kind of dreaded it. I would prefer to read novels in English than poems. However, as I, you know, grew up and became an adult, and listening to presentations such as these really make me think that, you know, poetry is so much more, and is really quite broad, really. And that things don't have to rhyme. They don't have to, you know, have their little verses and little rhymes. They can be very, very different. Like hearing what Pamela's poem was, you know, I think it really gives me a real different perspective as I hear presentations like these, that poetry is not siloed, you know. And I guess I had this little silo belief of what poetry was, and I didn't like it. But now I think it's like opening my mind, I guess, to different forms of expression and different ways that people can write poetry, and that it's not just your typical, oh, this has to rhyme and this has to be like this, and or it has to be so abstract that you have no idea what it really means, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I really appreciate presentations such as these. Thank you.
That's really wonderful, Tammy.
I'm with you, Tammy. I felt the same struggle in school of being too strictly regimented and trying to find a space within it.
Well, then read Virginia Satire's Self-Esteem. It's free verse, wherever I put the book.
Free verse is great, and a great place to start, where you just, you know, you put fingers to keyboard or pen to paper or whatever, you know, whatever your instrument is, and you just go. You just, you know, write and see what comes of it. It's also a great creative tool that we use in arts, where it's a practice we call non-stopping, and you just, like, you basically verbally dump without thinking about anything for like 10 minutes, and then you take a break, and then you do it for 20 minutes, and then you take a break, and then you 30 minutes, and you take a break. and you just see what comes out, and then you get these little nuggets of phrases, and you're like, ooh, 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 that's cool. Ooh, that's cool. So there's all sorts of interesting ways of finding simile and metaphor and cool stuff. So maybe at some point, this community needs to, we need to do a workshop, a poetry workshop, where we get together or do it on Zoom with some folks, maybe like Philip and Valentina, who can guide a process. See, I'm writing more grants in my head, but where people can, be prompted by exercises or activities to help get those creative juices flowing. Because that's really what I find when I was learning poetry, is that really was all it took, was like somebody would give me a prompt because I didn't know where to start. And half the time it's the start that you're like, well, what am I supposed to write about? And it's like, okay, well, here's a prompt, right? Like Valentina said, I am. There's your prompt, I am. Okay, I can start with that. What am I? Who am I? What am I not? So there you go.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff, friends. Thank you so much for joining us in this space.
Thank you.
It's been a really great night. Yeah. Thank you. I hope that at some point you'll be back in the space with more work, because you have no shortage of it. So there you go.
Thank you.
Have a lovely evening, and thanks for joining us in the VocalEye Almost live space.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Good night.
Good night.
VocalEye, vocaleye.ca. Special thanks to our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts, the British Columbia Arts Council, the Province of British Columbia, and the City of Vancouver.